I'm here with a man who has been someone of, I've enjoyed you as a person for 2 or 3 years and never read your book until maybe 10 days ago, any of your books until 10 days ago. Paulo Coelho, most famous for the book in the US anyway, The Alchemist. It's your most famous book. You said you were a Guinness Book of World Records for translations because it's over how many?
71 languages, meaning, for example, in Spain, we have 4 different languages: Catalan, Spanish, Basque, and Gallego. And the same for in India, I'm translated in 10 different languages. So in any case, the book is all over the world. Of course, there are also pirate editions that I cannot control, but for an author, this is a kind of medal. If you're a pirate, that means that people want your product, and the book, the publisher cannot get there.
That's right. And over, I think you said over 170 or more countries as well, yes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the only other brand I know who has that kind of penetration anywhere is Coca-Cola, and I think they have...
My dream, I tell you, Chris, probably 10 years ago, someone asked me, I was in Lebanon. I was in Lebanon because I wrote a book on Lebanon called The Fifth Mountain. Mm-hmm. And the person said, "What's your dream?" And I said, "My dream is to be as popular as Coca-Cola." I was so surprised with my answer, you know, but I'm not ashamed of it because I think I had something to share. I had something to give away. I have something, you know, to basically, I feel that writing books is my mission in life, my bliss, and I have to be able to do this. And then that's why I rely so much on social communities, because you cannot get books all over the world, but you can have podcasts, you can have internet. And today, writers, unfortunately, they are very limited to the book form. And writers are not only people who write books, are people who write posts, who write a lot of things. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do now is to amplify what I have in my books in different platforms.
Now, they often, writers, when they realize as they've grown to a certain belief or realization, is that if they're not going, well, first they perceive that to be published through a mainstream publisher is going to change everything. They will make $5 million when they sell that first book, of course, and then they will forever just write for passion. But as you know, that didn't quite work that way with any book when you start. I mean, your very earlier books, of course, you couldn't, you know, quit other things for some time. My other question, I bet, or where this ties to, is people say, oh, but if I write for the internet, I can't make a living. I can only make a living if I publish a book. How do you tell people about that?
I tell you, my mother told me this. If you write in general, not for internet, because internet did not exist by then. She said, you cannot make a living out of writing. In Brazil, you should follow the career of your father. He's an engineer. And I said, but Mama, my dream is to write. If I cannot make a living, well, at least I will have a lot of fun. The consequence of this is that I was put 3 times in a mental institution when I was 18, 19, and 20, because they thought, we need to save this poor boy. He's totally lost. But I survived. I think there's some very important battles that you have to fight. So at the end of the day, you do that not because you're going to make money. You do that because it is your passion. In life, you have really to have fun, to be passionate by the things that you do. And I am a living experience that if you do that, money will come. So of course, after 140 million books sold, that means close to 500 million people, because a book is read by 3 readers minimum. I can say, wow, I'm glad that I did not quit when I have my first fights, But I'm also glad because I continue to do this, even if I don't need, if I have money for 3 generations, 5 generations, or whatever. I do this because I'm passionate by the things that I do, and because I think that we need to be committed to our passion.
I believe that modern writers in blogs and the like don't realize just how the opportunity exists that we take our lives and we sift from them things that become work and that become something that's maybe more than just an observation. And for example, you wrote a book about being committed as such called Veronica Decides to Die, or rather, I guess that book came from those experiences that you had. And I wonder, because blogging and tweeting and Facebook is so immediate, how do you tell them to maybe come back and pick back up?
But that's the main challenge. Is the main challenge to writers today. We are used to write books. We need to understand that we have different platforms, and you need to learn how to write the different platforms. In the future, we will consider a writer a person who can cover as many platforms as he or she can. So going back to the past, when they invented, Gutenberg invented the printing press, the moving thing, probably the monks in the monasteries, they said, oh, this is not good, this is not art, you know, you should have these beautiful handmade books. But what happened with the printed book is that the book changed the way that we see the world, because thanks to a technical evolution, that was the book, the physical book, we had Renaissance. From the moment that we could, our thoughts could travel faster to places where you don't need to be physically there, it started to influence everybody in the world. I think the same thing is happening now. It's fantastic to romanticize the past, but let's be conscious. We need also to understand that present is very romantic in the sense that we are in front of an unknown and gigantic possibility to express our ideas.
This man named Bob Stein had been given the task in 2008, I think, and he completed in 2009, to redefine what is the definition of a book. And when you think of this, you think, well, I think we know what a book is. We've had a few centuries on that. But his opinion was that there's a new definition as technology has evolved. And he says, or his foundation found that a book is now called a user-driven media where readers and sometimes authors congregate. And to me, what you create through your social channels is exactly that, a user-driven media where readers and you, the author, have congregated, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. And besides that, it is an interactive media in the sense that I tell you, I'm here in my office in Geneva, I write this, let's say. You have to use your imagination to think how my office is, how Geneva is, what is the temperature outside. So at the end of the day, a book was always this interactive media. That's why people leave movie theaters when they see an adaptation of a book and they say, oh, the book was better. It's not because the book was better. Normally it was, but because in the book, they could use their imagination. They were the director, or they choose the characters and how the characters were dressed, etc., etc., etc. So, in my opinion, I totally agree with the definition that you just gave me, and I will add that this interactive part of the book, meaning that the reader is not a passive person anymore. He is always acting and interacting.
I wanted to ask a question or two about The Alchemist, having just finished it. But then, my girlfriend Jacqueline had such a great question. She said, in the book is all written as if this is profound wisdom. This is wisdom from the hills. And anyone who reads it feels a reverence that you read when you maybe read a religious text. How could you, or how was it that you were able to convey information that came in that seemed so wise? How could you be so wise, seeming, in the context of that book, when, of course, no one knows everything or whatnot? Do you know this?
I fully understand your question. And when I read The Alchemist, sometimes I'm very surprised. Say, didn't I write this? But I have an answer to you. First of all, writing at the end of the day is you are digesting some experience that you had. And I wrote The Alchemist very fast. I wrote The Alchemist in 2 weeks without knowing at all that this book was going to be a worldwide success. I have to add that when it was published in Brazil, after 1 year, the publisher took the book and said, it's not going to sell. And I said, come on, it's not going to sell. No, it sold 900 copies. But I was so convinced that this was a very important book for me that I started knocking doors, and I found another publisher who decided to give a second chance to The Alchemist. This did not happen only in Brazil, it happened in other countries. At the beginning, they were very reluctant. But to convey this, what you call wisdom, is what I call inspiration. So in The Alchemist, it is written there, everything, all things are one thing only. I do believe in this sentence. I believe that somehow we are like, we artists, and everybody who does anything with love, we are like radars. We are getting inputs and transforming in a very unconscious way into words. So the wisdom that it is in The Alchemist, if we can call it wisdom, and I think we can call it wisdom, is not basically my wisdom, but it is the wisdom of people who lives today, who lived in the past, and that this energy is still present and alive here.
We talked a moment before we recorded about this notion that you have so many books. Your second most popular is 11 Minutes. I note that, a few years before The Alchemist, you had written a book called The Practical Manual of Vampirism. I think that, vampires, your time is right now. I mean, there's so many now. How is it? You have so many storylines, but of course you're known for the one. How does that... How often do you ache to tell some of these other stories and go past just the story of The Alchemist?
First of all, you have to be very realistic about it. Every single writer has one book that it is his or her key book. I can quote 3 or 4. Hemingway with The Old Man and the Sea, Khalil Gibran with The Prophet, Henry Miller with Tropic of Cancer, Fitzgerald with Great Gatsby, and then you have the body of work afterwards that if people are very interested in their author, they are going to read. So I'm very proud and grateful to The Alchemist, and I don't feel, oh, they need to read my new book. They will. They will because, A, I'm still alive, so I can do something for the book, for the new book. And B, if they like one, they are going to try to find others. Having said that, I think that I saw many people complaining, and I saw many people saying, many authors saying something that I really don't like. They say, my next book is better than the previous one. They are trying to sell, in the most stupid way, his next book or her next book, because they are underrating a book that put them there in the major league. I I will never say that. I think that all my books I expressed all my love. Not all of them sold as well as a few of them, but at least I can say my reader never betrayed me because I never betrayed my reader. So he or she can buy a book like The Fifth Mountain or like The Winner Stands Alone and hate, you know. But they are going to buy the next one. They are going to give me another chance because they know that I'm not trying to get into a formula, to be repetitive, to tell the same things. I need to dare. Otherwise, writing books will become a very boring task. And if it is boring, why bother to do it?
So perhaps it's your heritage. Perhaps it's your heritage plus your view of the world. You know, since taking The Alchemist into account. But every book you write is a lot about love. No matter what the topic is, it is also a lot about love. I think that for a person who writes so much about love, who seems very in his skin and very a man of people, you know, your background on Twitter is all of the people who have, you know, who love your work and who you love for that. I think let's just go into the fact that I don't think people would realize you are so into technology. I don't think the average person who hasn't experienced you in my circle, you know, in social channels, knows that you're such a technologist. How did that come to be? How did it come that you love to go to the tech conferences and that you love to use all the new technology and all that?
Let me answer first about love. There is a classic book by Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp, and he wrote a book called The Meaning of Life, a classic. A classic. I strongly encourage people to read this book. And there he is in the concentration camp, and he was putting tracks for trains, and a friend of him, who is also a prisoner, who is also in the concentration camp, say, imagine if our wives could see us now. And then Viktor Frankl, who was an atheist, he was Jew because it was the traditional religion of his family, but he did not believe in anything. He has this epiphany. He did not believe in love, such a romantic word, you know, and he's not there in the concentration camp anymore. He starts thinking about his wife, and there's such a beautiful moment in this book that he says, all of a sudden, me as a scientist, because he was a psychoanalyst also, me as someone who always saw love as such a romantic thing, I understand what people mean. I cannot explain, but I understand that love is the most important thing in the world. So if you go to any bookstore, 90% of the books contains love. Hidden or visible, but love is there. Can we explain love? No. Love is something that needs to be experienced, not explained. But when you talk about love, when you show love, when you experience love, and you read a book, you see a movie, you listen to a song or music where love is present, you have this sensation. They understand me. I'm not alone. And then, as for social communities, I was always very curious. I knew from the very beginning, my first homepage, we used to have homepages by then, we used to have BBS. I had my BBS, believe it or not, and my friends used to say, what is this? Bulletin board system. It was for 3 or 5 people. I was very, very excited by the possibility to talk to other people using a different platform. When I mean talk, it was express my ideas. This has been my quest there, my interrogation mark there, my interrogation mark here, but I'm really enthusiastic about the possibilities that internet or any social platform give to us.
I think it's interesting that you also get to meet in your walk. You're getting to meet the Sergey Brin, founder of Google's of the world, but also the young person who knows you as only the author of Alchemist, and everyone in between. How is it? How do you find that experience on the social web? And I guess what do you take from that yourself? What do you get back? Because I know what the people get when they connect with you. They feel this, he spoke to me. But what do you take back?
If I have to summarize in one sentence, what I take back is the following: I am not alone. Meaning that we need to express ourselves and to be understood. That was communities in general. I'm not talking about social communities. We can go back to the caverns. We need to feel that we are not alone. And when I go to the street and they recognize me and say, "Oh, are you Paulo Coelho?" Sometimes they don't believe that I'm Paulo Coelho because they see me in a supermarket. I have to show my credit card. No, I am Paulo Coelho. No, you look like Paulo Coelho. No, I am Paulo Coelho. Look at my credit card. It's written here, And then we start a conversation, and it's so fantastic. It's so fantastic. Success has this double-edged sword. No, it can take you to boring cocktails that are always the same. After the 1 month, you are really bored to death. Or you can open the door to meet new, interesting people that can be the taxi driver, can be the prince of this country, can be whatever. So dealing with this sensation that I'm not alone, that gives me that encourages me a lot.
Suddenly, as you said, it could be the taxi driver or the prince, I thought, or it could be the king and the crystal merchant and the...
Yeah. Well, it can be President Obama, for example. I was watching a speech by Obama, and all of a sudden, Obama quotes me. He quotes a book of mine, The Valkyries. You can find this in YouTube. And I said, my God, Obama. And then you meet the concierge at the hotel, and I say, Paulo, I only read one book in my life, and it was The Alchemist. My God, it is a blessing for me. It is really a blessing, because at the end of the day, we are here. You are here, Chris. I'm here to improve the state of the world. We have this commitment. We are part of the society. We have to do this. We cannot be absent, or we cannot close our eyes for so many problems that the world is facing now. And we are using, you are using, I'm using our work to do our best. And the more you can reach from Obama to the concierge at the hotel, the more you see that people have the same questions, probably not the same answers, and people, they can identify themselves with these questions. So, at this very moment, there is a lot of bridges that are collapsing. Social, religious, political, economical. One bridge is left intact. It is cultural. My highest readership is in Iran, where I have 4.6, one in every 4.6 Iranians read my books. The second is Israel. 4.9. One in every 4.9 Israelis read my books. The Aleph is now #1 in Israel.
Sure.
3 days after the book was published. that gives me a lot of hope, because at least people can understand each other. People can understand storytelling.
Sure.
And if this is still possible, if I can understand your story, I don't need to share your values, your religious values, but at least I understand that you are a human being like me, and we respect each other. I'm not being romantic. I'm not being romantic. But beyond all this political manipulation that we see every day, people are people. And if they can understand each other, nothing is lost.
My friend from Boston, Steve Garfield, when I first sat with him across his kitchen table, and I said, you know, in my life I intend to meet very many famous and successful people, and I'm curious how you get over that shock and that fan feeling or all that. And he said to me just what you just said, which is that people are people. And if nothing, there's the biggest lesson there is that we're all the same person.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, I could talk to you until it's very dark and you are very hungry and your voice doesn't work, but I will leave you with that. So, Paulo Coelho, thank you so very much for the time today, and I'm glad to have you here with me.
Thank you very much, Chris. You are someone who is doing a lot of good. Keep your good work, and I hope that we have another opportunity to talk to each other. Bye.